So technology spending, if you would look at it traditionally, would have been rather flat. Because in the end, we're always looking to see how we can either really enable new products, new opportunities through discrete, but packaged and integrated investments. So technology typically would be funded out of those, and at the same time, we're drastically reducing our operations expenditure and really repurpose that for innovation, in our case, I would even say reinvention of our platforms and technologies.
Oh, interesting. So give me some examples so you're part of like a reinvention or a digital transformation journey. That's also a phrase we hear a lot as well. Tell me some of the major initiatives that you've been undertaking in the last couple of years. Has it been a move to the cloud or revamping security or all of the above? Or?
Well, specifically 21, we've basically been doing all of it. So by starting off by launching a completely new service, or that is just about to be launched into the marketplace, starting with new platforms from scratch, new products, new platforms, without any technical debt, without any legacy from scratch. So that obviously is a dream come true to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But we've also been using some of those evaluations and decisions we made to also determine upgrade and replacement strategies for our existing and legacy type of business. So that also meant we really combined that with a parallel modernization replacement of our core technology platforms. That also means we're literally especially when it comes to the bank, that traditionally has been a bit more traditional or conservative on the technology side, jumped from a relatively legacy banking platform into 100% cloud-based ecosystem of banking capabilities, banking as a service capabilities. It's a mix of native cloud-based own development to services, software as a service functions, as well as various other internal group functions that we exposed as services as part of a wider ecosystem.
Nice. Okay. So, no surprise there that the cloud is playing heavily into some of this transformation. Do you mind sharing which we have these three major platforms that have dominated the cloud computing space: Google Cloud Platform, AWS with their Lambda functions we've parsed out here as well, but AWS in general, and then Microsoft Azure sort of leading the pack of it. Are you running to any of these, or Salesforce as well as in the mix?
So all of the named.
Okay.
We're following also as we are operating globally, and we also are operating in regulated industries. That really puts us also put some certain constraints onto our technology selections, also how to make them comfortable to regulators around the globe. That also means we work in a multi-cloud, under multi-cloud strategy. Some providers either don't want or can't escape for specific functions they want. So literally, it's more of a best of breed approach with some leading suppliers in here. But for us, it's always ecosystem. For us is a key thing. We really look to partner with anyone relevant.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So the multi-cloud approach, multi-vendor, the reality of it, I guess, you're doing on-prem and cloud, and you're all over the world with different vendors. So the big question is, how do you juggle all of that? How do you manage sort of data movement between the different clouds and the hybrid multi-cloud approach? What kind of, are you using any sort of tools or governance frameworks even that help kind of keep that under control?
The key element really is introducing a strong architecture function.
Okay.
It may not always be very comfortable, but we're certainly taking a bit away from maybe the traditional self-service approach by following a very, very structured and managed approach and move to the cloud. That is to a strong extent driven by security and our drive to enforce security down to the lowest level. But as well as data privacy, again, we're subject to hundreds of regulations across the globe. we always got to be very sure on where our data is flowing.
Let's shift gears a bit, if you don't mind, and go to, I want to talk about some of the machine learning and artificial intelligence, if this is under your purview. So a lot of organizations are experimenting with this. Financial services is sort of leading the way in many ways on some of this innovation. Tell me a bit about some of your AI and ML, strategy that's happening and some of the vendors that you're relying on. Often it's tied to the chosen cloud infrastructure that you've settled on, but you have a hybrid and multi one. So tell me a bit about your AI and ML strategy.
That's a relatively early stage. We have some very specific areas where there's some real value with let's say without too many, I would call it, ethical constraints. So we certainly will replacing some traditional rule processing or rule-based analytics with AI. Which is something that's more like in a trial phase, and also kind of using the right data sets where, again, it's let's say we're not running into any possible conflicts with consumer data privacy.
Okay. Great. And often tied to this sort of AI and ML, approach is a really big importance is the data lake and data warehouse. Basically how you're managing and serving up your data for analytics use cases. We've seen a lot of interest. You saw Snowflake on the initial slide as sort of the standout, darling of the survey when it comes to overall net score, which is basically majority positive spending intentions around Snowflake. But all the different public cloud vendors have their own data warehousing offerings, data lakes, lake houses, right? It's sort of a Databricks thing. So any of these sort of standing out to you? And you mentioned some self-service is involved. So you probably have data warehousing that's pretty structured, as I'm guessing.
Very much.
Yeah.
Well,
so
we still have a combination, but Snowflake is probably the one vendor that probably every even executive in our company knows. So that certainly is an indication also on the value and we derive out of Snowflake, that it's become that visible. But also, as mentioned earlier, we tend to use best of breed for the right purpose.
Okay.
So that certainly Couchbase is a key technology for us, as is Mongo.
Say that last one. Is what?
MongoDB.
Oh, Mongo, sure.
Yeah. A little bit of Redis and some initial work with Google.
With Google, okay. Google
And
Cloud Platform,
of course, there's the old traditional work, so Oracle, IBM, Cloudera. I would even count into that. That's kind of the past.
Okay. Yeah, the past. These are like your legacy. It seems almost impossible to fully get your data out of these systems, particularly for financial organizations. Yeah. Okay, great. So, and what's been so appealing? Snowflake comes up an awful lot. What is so appealing about Snowflake to you? You said all of your executives seem to know about this, which is telling, I think. What is it about that's been so appealing to you? And when did you embrace it? Was it in the last year or two, or?
The last, a little bit more than a year. But for us, the learning curve was very, let's say, very quick. But also, it was mostly acceptance across, and also the openness. So it really ties well into a migration to cloud infrastructures, and also that there's a high, let's say, awareness and familiarity also with our partners that we work with. So it has quite quickly become a common denominator.
Yeah. Is it the openness and sort of flexibility for it to apply to multiple domains? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.